everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jedi Way here on the soon-to-be John Rocha channel starting next Monday. But for now, still the Outlaw Nation channel, and really excited to be back doing some Star Wars talk here with the great Laura Kelly. How are you, Laura?
I'm doing really good. You know, today's been one of those days, John, where I remember that I have free will and I'm an adult and I can do what I want. And I had cake for first dinner. So I'm feeling amazing from my first dinner. How are you?
Rubbing it in my face. I haven't had cake in 4 months. I am down 45 pounds since March, I think. And so I am like, you say cake and immediately my mind goes to what kind of cake would I have if I had any cake? So I live vicariously through you enjoying a piece of cake for first dinner, and damn right, it is your free will to enjoy it. And I appreciate. What kind of cake was it? Can you say? Will you
You know,
reveal
it was chocolate. Got it from the grocery store. It was like one of those things they sell by the slice. So my sister and I split it, and it was delightful. It kind of looked like one of those ones from like the movie Matilda that Bruce eats. Like it looked like a slice of that. It was like intensely chocolate. It was great. But yeah, you do. I have to say, John, you look amazing. Like it's been a while since we chatted. And like you're like smaller in the frame and everything. So that's truly amazing. 45 pounds is a huge accomplishment. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was just, adjusting the diet. I know other people who've seen the shows know I've talked about it, so I'm just adjusting the diet for me. Some of you who may understand may only watch the Star Wars show. Yeah, just kind of cut out all the sugar, all the carbs, all the fast food. It was really a hell of a change. And after the first 2 weeks, it was a very easy thing. And now I cook from home. I rarely ever go out to eat, which was not my modus operandi for quite a number of years. So this has been a new change. I don't know if this makes me even more of a hermit, Laura, now that I'm cooking at home now, and I hardly go to the theaters anymore because I'm unsettled by being around a lot of people. But it is what it is. It's good for me. So
well, it's hard to go to theaters too when you're like surrounded by the scent of popcorn.
Oh yes,
and you're like that's one thing. Like that's it. So learn to resist that. That's a whole other ball game.
Yeah, the big FU is that you can have 2 hot dogs without buns. And that's like, do I really want to have a hot dog from the movie theater? And so there's all of that situation. So yeah, you're right. The smell of the popcorn, the smell of the pretzel bits, which is really my thing, or pretzel bites, however you all say it. That's really my thing. But yes, anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Star Wars. We're going to get into so many things. And unfortunately, of course, Kevin Smets cannot join us this week. His wife's father's in town, and they're working on a project, and so all of his nights are taken, and this is the only time we can record this week. So unfortunately, we're out on Kevin, but Kevin may be back next week or the week after if we do a show and some Star Wars news breaks for sure. But we're going to get into 4 topics, cover them all here on the show. And again, thank you all so much for joining us. Let's get into it, Laura. The first one, let's talk about this big news, the one that motivated us to do a show today, and that was Matt Smith. Yes, Matt Smith has been cast in the Star Wars Starfighter movie here from director Sean Levy. He will be joining Ryan Gosling and Mia Goth, 2 very accomplished and strong actors. Certainly Mia Goth up and coming, Ryan Gosling firmly established here. And here's Matt Smith, who is an interesting career in film. Of course, we all know him as Doctor Who, but of course, he's part of the Morbius movie as well as certain other films that he's been a part of. So it's a fascinating decision to put him in here. And apparently Sean Levy met with a bunch of actors before settling on Matt Smith. Sources say it will be one of the villain roles is who he will be playing, and casting has been gearing up on the project over the last couple of weeks. Sources say execs made the decision to go with Smith to play the next great villain in Star Wars universe because of how he knocked it out of the park in the audition. And remember, Starfighter is set, I think, 5 years after the events of Star Wars Episode 9, and of course Matt Smith is coming off of his incredible work on House of the Dragon. So Laura Kelly, your thoughts on this one? Do you like this idea? You're down with this? What are your feelings?
I saw a lot of people reacting to this the same way that I did in my head, which was, I think I've seen this film before. This is really funny that we have kind of already been through this whole thing with Matt Smith being in Star Wars, allegedly in The Rise of Skywalker, though I think we've learned since then that didn't really go anywhere, like barely got off the ground of him actually being in Star Wars, allegedly.
Right.
So I think that this is interesting to finally bring him back. I'm glad that that like whole experience didn't leave a bad taste in his mouth to the point where he just didn't want to have anything to do with
Yeah.
and with Star Wars. So this is really exciting. I am not a Doctor Who person. I would
Okay.
probably love it if I watched it, but I don't have time for a new obsession. So I have to I simply must avoid it. But I am really digging his role in House of the Dragon. I
Mm,
mean,
right.
he's so like magnetic in that show.
Yeah, yeah,
So
please.
I'm looking forward to this. I think that this works out really well of him playing a villain
Mm,
in Star Wars. I'm hoping that there's a spin on it where it doesn't feel a lot like House of the Dragon. Granted, like
good point.
there's a little anti-hero situation happening with House of the Dragon and Matt Smith
Yeah.
and what's going on with him. You want to cheer for him, but like he's such a dick sometimes that it's like
Yes.
hard to. So I'll be curious to see like how this kind of differs from that because you have to think that like he would have heard about this role, read about it, whatever,
Mm,
and decided like, okay, this is different enough from
yeah.
House of the Dragon over here that I can do this and it won't be like repeating myself. So very curious to see how big of a role it's going to be, number one, and if it will go on
Yeah.
beyond just this one film, if this turns into a sort of serial appearance for him. But
Yeah.
what do you think? And also, are you a Doctor Who guy? I can't remember.
Yes. Yes. I became a Doctor Who guy through Peter Capaldi and then went back and watched some Matt Smith episodes and some David Tennant episodes, and some Christopher Eccleston episodes. And occasionally, because I watch Pluto TV, which is an app that people should get on their phones or on their Apple TV or Roku, they have a Doctor Who channel, which shows the old Doctor Who shows from like the 1960s and stuff and 70s and 80s. It is a fascinating show to go back in time and watch. So yes, I love Doctor Who, and I enjoyed him as Doctor Who, although he was, not the doctor I got on board with. It was fun to enjoy his episodes in retrospect. But I like this true and too, and this speaks to the growing power of Matt Smith. It seems amongst these fantasy nerd properties or geek properties,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you say you say Doctor Who, you say House of the Dragon, now you say Star Wars, and you were so smart to bring up the Rise of Skywalker stuff, which I'd completely forgot about because I'm just trying to forget that movie. He was supposed to play a significant role, including a potential young Palpatine storyline in that movie, but the plans fell through. So this is set 5 years after the Rise of Skywalker. Is there something being crafted here that could have shades of what is in the Rise of Skywalker that may touch upon his role his role as it was supposed to be in the movie and his role going forward in this movie? Because when you put it in context, when you just said that, I'm like, um, it seems odd to not consider that situation when you're casting him. So was this a situation where they knew they had kind of done him wrong by not getting him into the movie, and they had said to him, "Look, we want to work with you. We like you so much." And so they met with other actors, but it was probably Matt Smith the whole time who was going to take the role, and he eventually got it. And they're like, "Okay, cool. We made good on the promise." Or what have you. Or it could have been obviously a bunch of actors, as it says in the story, going in and he just beat them out, which is also very possible because Matt's a fantastic actor. But he's a man now. And I think this is what's fascinating. When you see him in Doctor Who, he's like, he's an older dude, but he's skinny, kind of nerdy, nebbish kind of guy. But now he's kind of come into his body, come into some weight. And when you see House of the Dragon, there are looks that he does with his face that are just utterly terrifying or will
Yeah.
stop you in your tracks, right? And as you said, he's a bit of an asshole, but also like the things he does in that show are really unsavory when you see that. So how far are they going to go with this villain role? I wonder, because there's supposed to be a main female villain is what we keep hearing on the rumors and what have you. So how big is his role going to be? And what do you anticipate this movie will be like, Laura? I mean, you're casting Ryan Gosling, Mia Goth, and Matt Smith, three people who can do comedy, but also three people who can do intense drama. So, where do you think this lies with Sean Levy as the director? What does this casting indicate to you, if anything?
Well, it does send me down the path of like who exactly are the villains or like what group is the villains in this
Yeah.
day and age. We're 5 years after the rise of Skywalker. The Empire is long gone.
Right.
My God, I hope that Palpatine is long gone. I hope that this is not a situation where we're bringing that back in
Oh,
any way.
right.
Please, God. The First Order is supposed to have been defeated 5 years in
Right.
the past by the time we get to this. So, like, what kind of villains are we dealing with now?
Yeah.
And how is it going to be different than what we've dealt with in the past? Because the First Order, like, very much did rise from the ashes of the Empire. There was a lot
Yeah.
of similarities there. Are we going to stay in that same vein, or are we going to mix it up a little bit
Yeah.
and go in a different direction? In the High Republic, we've got like these villainous pirates that are sort of our big bads.
Okay.
And that's kind of one way you could go. I suppose there's always like some sort of underworld
Right.
like situation we could dig into. I'll just be very curious to see like where are we going? How it's
Mm.
going to be different than what we've seen in the past, and how are we going to make it like bigger? You know, they're always
Yeah.
trying to go bigger. There's always a bigger Death Star or whatever. And where are we going to go that's different and bigger than where we've been in the past?
Does this casting excite you though? Like, does this show to you like they're casting actors who are capable of delivering some really complex performances? So it seems like this is one they're really putting a lot of effort into the casting, because they usually cast, kind of unknowns. The first
Mhm.
trilogy, unknowns. The second trilogy, Natalie Portman was known, but Hayden Christensen wasn't that well known. And then this trilogy, Daisy and John and Oscar weren't that well known at the time. So does the fact that they're going for these heavy hitters and Ryan Gosling and Matt Smith, and yes, to a degree, Mia Goth as well, does this indicate to you that they want this to be something that's a little bit more powerful in how it's
Yeah.
coming across?
A little more heavy-handed, I think, is
Heavy-handed.
kind of what I'm reading from it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not getting silly pirates, Hondo Anaka. Like, I'm not getting that vibe from like what we're getting when they're talking about Mia Goth and they're talking
Right.
about like Matt Smith. Like, that just is not what it strikes me as. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
thinking you're casting actors of this caliber. I that's got me excited. I think it's going to be something bigger, badder, and different, and that's what I'm excited about. So I think that this is encouraging. This is a move in the right direction. It's also kind of it at least different for Sean Levy. It sounds like it's starting
Yeah.
to feel like it might go a little darker than what we've seen
Yeah.
from like I think of like Night of the Museum and I
Right.
think of like a Deadpool Wolverine and like there's a lightness and there's a lot of humor in those and
Right.
this is starting to feel like it's kind of veering into maybe a little bit darker when you are casting actors like this for villainous roles and we don't know who or what exactly the villains are or what their motivations are yet.
Yeah. Even at the Adam Project, right? That was something that was dealing with something emotionally serious, but there were a lot of jokes and comedic moments throughout. So yeah, it may be that this one's got a little bit, and I've been sensing that too, that this one's got a little bit of a harder edge to it. Doesn't mean there won't be moments of levity or moments of humor. That's why you cast people who can do both drama and humor so well. But yeah, this is going to be fascinating to see what this story ends up being. And if it's all about the new kid who is going to essentially become someone that Ray teaches, that's a lot of rumors as well that Ray shows up at the end. I don't know, because the Rey movie is set 15 years after the end of Rise of Skywalker. So will this kid be now a teenager by the time we get, or in the 20s, maybe by the time we get to that movie? I don't know. It's going to be curious. And Jeff said on the hot mic the other day that what he hears is that they're casting an unknown for the young character. So the essentially the Padawan or the person who's going to be the focus of the movie. So that's interesting, and that fits Star Wars as well. So yeah, well, I'm going to be curious to see what the end result is of this when we finally actually go into production and actually start being on set and shooting stuff, Laura. Which,
Yeah.
as Laura has said many times, is not a given in Star Wars.
It's not. I mean, this one, it's sounding like there's a lot of momentum
Yeah,
happening with this movie. So
yeah,
I think it's safe to say that this is finally going to be happening. I just, I think it's good to stay on the side of caution
yes,
until we start getting to this point. I'm actually really encouraged to hear that they're looking at a more of an unknown to be playing
yeah,
this sort of like lead child role. I
yeah,
mean, when you think back to like the original Star Wars, like Carrie Fisher wasn't that well known. Mark
yeah,
Hamill wasn't that
yeah,
well known. Like Harrison Ford had some credits, I think, to his name, but like this is sort of the tradition in
yeah.
Star Wars is to like give some of these young actors their start, and then we get to see them skyrocket from there. So fingers crossed that whoever they cast in this role, number one, has a thick skin, and two, can handle all of what is going to come with the Star Wars fandom.
Because I mean, they cast Jake Lloyd, who was an unknown, and we saw how that turned out. So you hope the system is better equipped to handle that situation with casting. And to be honest with you, the kids nowadays who are getting into the business, it's not a lot of wide-eyed people anymore. They're very clear about what they want to do. They have good management teams behind them, and you don't hear as many horror stories or anywhere near as many horror stories as you heard from times past. So you imagine he'll have a good, solid foundation, and the brand itself and the company itself will be taking care of him. So we will see. We will see, though, as this goes along, when we finally get some footage down the road and maybe some reveals of what this film's all about. All right, let's move on to our other story. Let's move to another story here, Laura. Let's talk about this gentleman here. Speaking of someone who's been in Star Wars for quite some time, that is Temuera Morrison. Temuera Morrison was talking with quite a few people here, talking about his situation with Star Wars and coming back to play Boba Fett. And there were some conversations about him being a part of this again. And he was at a Comic-Con here. Which Comic? The Tampa Bay Comic-Con. She said, "If you know Tampa Bay had a Comic-Con." I know people at Tampa. I should have gone to that one. Anyway, he was asked about any Star Wars projects being lined up, and he said no. And it's described as bluntly. He said no. "We really have to treasure those moments now. All of you need to send a fax or a letter or an email." Oh, bless his heart. "To those powers that be at Lucasfilm." Who the fuck is sending letters? But I appreciate it, Temuera. "I'm sure they'd love to hear from everyone. Please give Daniel Logan and Temuera Morrison another chance and put them somewhere." And Daniel chimed in, of course, Daniel, who appeared on the panel there with Morrison, who played the young Boba as a child in Attack of the Clones. He said, "The crazy part with Star Wars is that you don't know about filming anything until like a week or maybe two or even less than that, right? But the thing is, Temuera is the greediest person in Star Wars. He's played so many characters. He's got the most characters in Star Wars. If you go down the line from Jango, Boba, all of the clones, Rex, Cody, Fives, he's got the most character in Star Wars. And they think there's going to be plenty of opportunities," says Logan, "especially for this guy," especially indicating Temuera, "with this era of Star Wars like Ahsoka and all this stuff set after Return of the Jedi." So, Laura, you hear this stuff. Does this make you think it's going to happen, or are you thinking like, it's nice to talk about it, but after the reception of the Boba Fett series, it's kind of a long shot we might see him again?
I know. I think the long shot is definitely my thought process on it as well. And I'm glad that every article that I've read about this is sort of emphasizing, like, he said this bluntly. He said this humorously. He's kind of making a joke, because I feel like most of the time, like when we've heard about this in the past, like I just start to feel bad. I'm like, he goes around and does these like convention appearances and brings it up, and I just like start to feel sad for him that he had this opportunity that seems to have like gone by the wayside.
Right.
So I'm glad to hear that he seems to be like in good spirits and in good humor about it. Him and Daniel Logan. Unfortunately, I just don't see it, going anywhere. And it's really too bad, because when you talk about the Ahsoka series and how close she was with Rex, like, it's so sad, the idea that like we won't be able to see that relationship kind of come to fruition in live action. So I agree. The opportunity is definitely there. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. And I think Kevin has made this point too, but like, I stand by the Boba Fett show. I really enjoyed it. And I am disappointed that it had the reception that it had, and that it doesn't look like we're going to get any more. But I don't know. I know that you liked some of the episodes, but like maybe you weren't quite as like big on it as like Kevin and I were.
I liked, I tell you this, I thought there was a lot of promise in the show. And I was really excited with some of the episodes. But to me, the show was slightly disappointing at times, because it didn't, it presented certain things and then never touched base with them again. Or like with the Tusken Raiders, they kind of just walked right past the Native American illusions. And just like a lot of with Disney, when they present these issues in Marvel and in Star Wars, and they don't really explore these issues, which makes it almost insulting to those of us who know a lot about these issues and have studied these issues over the years, to have this be just kind of like lipstick approach to it, instead of really diving in and seeing what the illusions indicate and mean, and for the greater universe. And so you just have a little frustration with that overall. But that's not Temuera's fault. I thought he did a really good job as Boba, and the logic they used in him getting out of the Rancor pit, I think some people had issues with that. But his chemistry with Ming-Na Wen was great. His moments with Jennifer Beals, his moments even dealing with the two Hutts, which is one of the disappointing storylines for me, because I think they should have been brought back in some way, shape, or form. So I don't think anything that's wrong with that series has anything to do with Temuera. He was great in the show, and he's great as Boba Fett and Jango and all the different characters he's played, all the clones. So yeah, I don't think we'll see him back in a season 2, although people have seemed to have rediscovered the show, Laura, and are on you and Kevin's side more and more. I see online, which happens, but it wouldn't be surprised if he popped up in maybe Ahsoka season 2, or popped up in one of the in like the Dave Filoni verse culmination movie that they claim to be working on. I could see him popping in on that. But a solo movie or a solo second season of Boba Fett, I'd be really, really surprised to see that. So, but I agree with you that I like that he's taking it all in stride and he's being cheeky about it. And I think he means it, but I think he also understands, like, it's always a long shot with these kinds of things. And he's been through the wars of this stuff. And so him saying to people like, yeah, send in your stuff. The fact that he said, I'm sure they love to hear from everyone, I thought was very funny, because I'm sure Disney, the last thing they want is like a bunch of people inundating them with stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see them back, and I don't know. Maybe in some ways I'm getting softer as I get older, and it's just like, well, look, how much of this is the actor's fault? And just because the creatives messed it up doesn't mean we shouldn't see him again, right? And so hopefully there's better opportunities down the road if there is opening doors for him. And look, he's not getting any younger. And so if you want to use him while you can,
Yeah, and that's an opportunity to bring in Rex because he's not getting any younger.
Exactly.
It's just an idea. And speaking of not getting any younger, John, just out of curiosity, do you have access to a fax if you did want to fax Lucasfilm about Temuera?
Actually, we do. We have a printer that Lady Outlaw purchased because she is old school like you wouldn't believe. She still uses Post-it notes for everything. She still copies things onto a notebook off of computer screen instead of just saving it as a document on Word. So she bought a printer that can also fax. So yes, if I had to fax, I could use the printer, but I have to say, I have never used the printer since we bought it 2.5 years ago, or the fax machine. But for Temuera, I could be convinced to do it. I could even be convinced to write a letter, for God's sakes, which I don't think I've written since the early 2000s, a letter to someone. So
with your hand, write a letter with a pen in your hand. Get so tired. My hand would cramp up.
I tried to write cursive the other day, and I couldn't even remember how to write cursive anymore. So I was like, wow, these things do really leave you after a while. So
yeah.
Madness. But I do want to take a moment, Laura. Speaking of clones, this is out, ladies and gentlemen. Came out yesterday as we're recording this. A new novel, the Bad Batch novel, Sanctuary. Thanks to Laura Kelly, who has got me on the list for these books. I received them joyfully. And I'm a Bad Batch guy. You guys know I love the Bad Batch. I'm diving into this one this weekend, and I can't wait to read it. But it's out now for you all to purchase. Laura, did you get your copy as well?
I do. I can't reach it at the moment, but I'm all about my ebooks, so I got my electronic copy. They send that out, and they send out the audio one to us. So I will probably go that route. That's my preferred mode of reading these days. But yeah, I'm excited. It's nice to have the Bad Batch back in the fray.
I agree. And here's the quick log line. One sentence. Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Omega gamble on a mission to help rebuild Pabu in this thrilling adventure for the Bad Batch. So that's the log line for the book. And it's a quick book. It's not like 300 pages or anything like that. It looks like a pretty quick book. So yeah.
It's pretty small compared to, I think, most of what we get. I also have I have the Acolyte Wayseeker, which I would like to get into. And that too is on the smaller side as far as Star Wars reading. So if you're interested in jumping into Star Wars reading, and you see those Timothy Zahn books, those Thrawn books, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, those are so big. Sanctuary and Wayseeker are not that. They're smaller. You can start a little smaller with one of those.
There you go. Just a little quick plug there from the folks over at Penguin Random House. So I just want to give them some love. All right, Laura, let's move on to another conversation. Speaking of Rey, let's talk about this. The Rey situation. A lot of rumors going around now. A new rumor has popped up over the Rey situation. Of course, we know that a Rey movie is supposedly still in the works, supposedly still being directed by Sharmina Obaid-Chinoy, but we will see on all of this. But a new rumor comes to us from Daniel Richtman, Daniel RPK via Cosmic Marvel on Twitter. He is saying that Lucasfilm plans to create a Star Wars New Jedi Order that will be set after the events of the Rise of Skywalker. This era will, quote, be similar to the Mandoverse and will, quote, gradually build towards a major event that brings together characters introduced in past films. According to Rickman, this era will begin with the upcoming Daisy Ridley Rey movie. Of course, this is just a rumor, so you should take it with a grain of salt. But the Rey movie is supposed to be set, as I said, 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker, where Ridley's character Rey will construct a new Jedi Order. Of course, we've seen, Laura, so many people come in and out of the production of this particular film. George Nolfi is now the writer on this one, with Sharmina Obaid-Chinoy still, as I said, tapped to direct this one. And so this is fascinating to hear this rumor. Daniel can be wrong at times, but he's not usually wrong. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you like this idea? Does it excite you, or does this how can I say this? Do you have a little bit of trepidation on this because you know how people react to Rey?
I have more trepidation because I know how Star Wars movies seem to go. Like, we have the best of intentions, we get these rumors, and then they don't go anywhere. And this is one of those situations where, like, Lucasfilm didn't release this information. It's just like, for all we know at this point, this is just like a discussion that happened in one room with a few people, and it was just a discussion. It wasn't meant to go anywhere. You kind of never know with rumors like this. So the idea of like a film saga, sure, I think that's fine. I do hope that we're in a different position where like people aren't so hateful about Rey, because you're right. Like, there is a gigantic group of people out, maybe not gigantic, but a very loud group of people out there
for sure.
that are not fans of hers. But as far as like, do I want a series of film? Like, TBD, I got to see this next one first, I think. The idea that it's set so far after the Rise of Skywalker. I don't like it. That's just a big time jump, which means I feel like there's going to be then more time jumps. And I'm like, how old are you going to make her actually be when she's really not that old, like in reality? But I don't know. The fact that this film so far has been this revolving door of script writers, I'm still very like trepidatious about any of it. I'm fairly confident it will come to fruition eventually. But at this, like, I just, it's hard to get excited about these things when we have been through this before with Lucasfilm, with Star Wars films. And I know you're a gigantic Rey fan, so I have to guess that you are like, or you're a big Daisy Ridley fan. Like, you have to be excited about this possibility, right?
Yeah, I'm excited because, yes, as you said, I like her as an actress. I think she's damn good. I even watched that Cleaner film on HBO Max
Okay, I was going to ask, how is that? Do you know?
I liked it. It's fun. Like for what it is, right? It's a Saturday afternoon. I thank God I didn't pay for this type of movie. Like you can play on your phone while you're watching it. It's not going to demand a lot of you. And she's charming and she's good. And the fight sequences, Daisy has that face that when she gets dialed into something, I like her face when she's fighting. She's got that war face is what they call. And it works, for her. And the heavy breathing and the roars that she usually does. They served her well in that movie. And I liked what Young Woman in the Sea. I finally got to see that on Disney Plus and thought she was very charming in that. So for me, I think she's just a damn good actress. Whether the films work overall or not, I don't think it's anything to do with her. She's not the director, but I think she delivers good performances in those movies. So the idea in a vacuum of starting a Rey Verse where she is the central point, a central focus point, makes all the sense in the world. Kylo's dead. So there's no one else you can base this on if you're going forward. It ain't going to be Poe Dameron or Finn. So it makes sense for Rey, who was the focus of that trilogy, to be the focus going forward if that's where they want to go. And I think, she's grown a lot as a woman, grown a lot as an actress, and there's a confidence to her now that wasn't maybe there when she was younger. And if you watch her interview with Josh Horowitz, I think you can see a lot of that from her radiating off of her, and she's seasoned by the experience. So I feel like if they are bringing her back, they as she said numerous times, they had big plans for her character. So this rumor doesn't surprise me. Now, will it be accepted by the Star Wars universe? That is yet to be seen, because there are so many people who are invested in bashing anything to do with her, anything to do with Daisy Ridley. You know, we see it now. The MCU people, they're the same people who complain about any female leads in Star Wars. And so, yeah, I think it will be a tough sell, and it'll be a tricky sell to get people on board. So the motivation is to make the best quality film that you can make. So at least you have that in your corner to combat people coming after the film, because they will. But that being said, the last film made $1 billion, Laura. So there are, as loud as that contingent can be, there are plenty of Star Wars fans who do not listen to those people at all and still go see these movies. So I think they're hoping for that, but like you said, trepidatious is the word, even though I'm optimistic that it would actually be a lot of fun to see what they could create. But what do you think about, but do you think they have the creatives in place right now to be successful if they were to go down that route with a Rey universe? Because essentially it's kind of the same people who are still there to be in charge.
It's a lot of the same people that are still there. And with all of the movement we've had on writers on this film, it's hard to like have faith in anything creatively at this point with this movie. My other thing with this is that at this point in time, we've moved so far away from the Skywalker saga and the Skywalker story being so central to Star Wars. You know, we've got like Mando and Grogu happening in the Mandoverse, and that's become its sort of central thing that's so separate from the Skywalkers. Obviously, there's a little tie there, but like it's mostly separate. You've got publishing initiatives like the High Republic that are so separated completely and successful from the Skywalker saga.
Right.
Does the fact that Rey is like our new de facto Skywalker, is this just like repeating more of the same? Is there any danger of that? Or is it really they're trying to capitalize on that? Because yes, the Skywalker saga, you made the point, they do make money. At the end of the day, it's a corporation trying to make money, and that is what has made money in the past. So are they just going with the tried and true pattern?
Right.
Also, you've established the sort of Mandoverse, the idea that they'd want to go back and sort of repeat that same pattern, I think makes a lot of sense. But is the Skywalker saga played out? Have we moved on? And is there enough, I think, enthusiasm in the fandom for that to be successful again? What do you think?
Well, yes, it concerns me too, because to be honest with you, Laura, they're repeating the same thing. Like we're going to do a Mandoverse. Now we're going to do a Rey Verse where everybody's going to come together. So people are going to feel like that's a little bit creatively. Oh, it's a little devoid of creativity to be repeating the same thing that you're seeing. And Filoni is in charge. So you could say he's repeating himself. He's not even copying off someone else. He's repeating himself in pursuing that angle. And so, yeah, I don't have a lot of faith that they can get it right. They would have to really find some amazing directors. Now, I know Laura's not the biggest fan of Andor, but if you told me you're going to remove Charmin Obaid-Chinoy to bring in Tony Gilroy to be in charge of the Rey Verse, then I'm a lot more excited. Then I'm a lot more interested to see what he can do. Because remember, he came in and saved Rogue One, but he didn't direct Rogue One from day one. And if he had, I think we'd have had a completely different movie. Even though I love Rogue One, it is top 2, top 3 for me of Star Wars. And so it would be fascinating, as he just showed us for 20 episodes of Andor. He is quite good at world building, quite good at fleshing out Star Wars and having more of a grounded approach. That being said, a lot of Rey is in space. A lot of Rey is lightsabers. A lot of Rey is Jedi stuff that Tony didn't walk into. So to me, you'd have to find someone who I think could be in charge of the Rey Verse and not Filoni. It would have to be someone else who really understands how to make this thing work. And we've heard rumors for a very long time that Sean Levy had been writing a Rey movie as well. I don't necessarily trust that Charmin Obaid-Chinoy would be the one to lay the groundwork for a first Rey movie that's going to lead into all of this stuff that Daniel is telling us as a rumor as the approach to Star Wars. So I have faith in her, in Daisy Ridley. I don't know if I have faith in the people who are in charge right now. And I really don't find myself having a lot of faith in Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, because ever since she made that gaffe, it's like she's disappeared off the planet. Like, you haven't heard anything from her. You haven't seen anything from her. She doesn't come out with any other interviews. So you wonder if they are slowly but surely moving to a place where they find someone to replace her, and then they launch this, or say they're going to launch this.
Yeah. And I think the thing with Dave Filoni, though, is that at the end of the day, because of his role at Lucasfilm, the creative, like, chief officer, whatever he is, he's still going to have his hand in the pie somewhere, you know, like, he's still going to be involved. But what you're saying is, like, you don't want him to be, like, running the show. Like, there should be another executive producer that's kind of over the Rey universe.
Right.
In the way that Filoni's over the Mandoverse.
Yeah, the way Gilroy was. Like, Filoni gave him notes, he probably laughed at them and threw them in the trash. Like, that's the thing,
what
right?
I imagine too, yes.
No, totally, Dave. Totally. I'll get right on it. You know, you're 100% right. Is he gone?
Yeah.
You know, I just can't. That's just what I think, you know. And so I think the same. And look, Dave can do the Ahsoka verse or whatever it is he's going to call it, the Mandoverse. Knock yourself out. Favreau is a big part of that as well. But like, when it comes to the Rey situation, they really need to bring in someone who has some cachet. Like you're seeing with the Sean Levy film. They're bringing in these really strong actors. You need to bring a really strong executive producer or director who's going to have a really strong vision of where they're going with this, because they're essentially trying to hide us. If this is the plan, Laura, they're essentially trying to hide that this is a trilogy, a new trilogy, and it's going to be the Rey trilogy. And so culminating in like Empire Strikes Back, and culminating into Return of the Jedi, the battles that happen there in the story. So I think that's what they're setting up. They just don't want to overtly say it just yet. But they got to find a creative who can be in charge of that. I don't know that any leap to mind that would be willing to walk into Star Wars, you know. If Leslie Headland had done a better job with The Acolyte overall and had been received better, I think she could have been a great candidate, except, you know, it didn't really work out. So.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think they should bring someone in out like who is not under Filoni's thumb or necessarily, or do you think Filoni should run this thing?
No, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily bringing somebody in, but I wonder if it, you know, the new CEO, co-CEO, whatever it's going to be, if there's something there, if that is going to have any sort of if that's going to have any sort of influence in how things change and evolve, and how this movie ends / trilogy ends up getting made. If there's like a different person in charge than has been in charge, but then, you know, we talked about how Carrie Beck seems like a likely candidate, and she's great. She's done an amazing job, but she's kind of been doing the same. She's been involved in all the same stuff already.
Yes, 100%.
So talking about like wanting to change it up, I don't know if like that's the person that I'm. If we're installing her as CEO or president of Lucasfilm at some point, I don't know if my first thought is going to be like, oh, the Rey movie is going to be totally different. You know, like there needs to be like another name or something attached to it. And who knows, like maybe, I mean, Sean Levy might have like a whole team of people that he's planning to bring in or is already brought in to work on things like this in the creative aspect. And you've got all of these writers that have come and gone, but that odds are somebody's going to get a story by credit at some point. Some of that influence is going to make it into the final script. So who knows? It's going to be like a new hodgepodge of stuff. Maybe it'll all be good.
But I mean, Laura, I know, I love how you're trying to say that and make yourself believe it. But I mean, what's interesting too is when you look at the schedule right now. What is Mandalorian and Grogu? That's May 2026, right? Starfighter is supposed to come out May of 2027. They're supposed to start shooting this fall to come out in May of 2027. So we wouldn't see this Rey film until what, 2028, 2029?
Yeah.
And they haven't even I don't even know if they've dated the Mangold film fully officially. So
forgot that was a thing.
So I mean, it's a very strong possibility that they're gonna work on it, but we may not see it for years. So they may be waiting to see how Sean Levy's film comes out and how it does before they make any kind of announcement. a name that leaps to mind is Bryce Dallas Howard. I know she's kind of unproven on the theatrical side of things as a director, but a lot of people like her episodes. Steph Green is another director that I really enjoyed. Rick Famuyiwa had a really nice job in Mandalorian. So it's a deep bench of TV directors who have had some theatrical experience you could possibly explore here. But yeah, you just need someone that's going to revitalize this story and kind of combat the people who are looking to tear it apart from day one. That's not an easy task.
I know, exactly. And you know who else has like come up actually recently in relation to some of these Daniel RPK rumors that have come out? One of them recently talked a little bit about Taika Waititi, and I was so surprised to see his name come back up because I kind of thought that that whole situation was kaput. But the way that I read about it recently, like somebody's, I don't know, there must be some rumblings that somebody's working on something. I know that it has a script writer and that he's still supposed to direct at some point, but I mean, it's really just when his schedule opens up. I'm not saying that he should be the one that should take over all of this. Like, I don't think that's it, but you know, who knows who's got their hands in the pies of a Star Wars at this point. Like, it's such a gigantic franchise. I'm sure that there's lots of people who want to come and play in the sandbox, despite the everything that has happened and all of the creatives that have come and gone. There's still a draw there. So I have to have faith that, you know, something will come to fruition. Maybe it won't be good, but it'll be something that makes it into theaters and makes money.
Yeah, no, you're right. The rumors came out that Waititi's previously untitled Star Wars film now has a working title called Cosmic Doom. And that was a couple of days ago when that came out. So it seems like it's still in motion in some shape or form. So you're right to bring that up. So where is that going to slot in? What is that going to deal with? Is it going to be a one-off or is it going to be connected to the overall story? So where's that going to be chronologically in terms of release date in the world of Star Wars? Because I'll be damned if they're going to go back and start dropping 2 films a year again. I really would be surprised if they open that door again. So yeah. And Laura, we all know that Rian Johnson trilogy has never been officially canceled. That's still apparently dancing around somewhere.
Well, you know what? There was a story that came out about that recently where he was on an interview and he talked about, he must have been on a red carpet or something, and he was just like, it was just concepts. It was never really, which was so bizarre that he would say that, because I'm like, they announced it. Lucasfilm did a whole song and dance, like announcing it. There was a whole thing on StarWars.com. Like the way that Rian Johnson talked about it recently in an interview, talking about how it was just like concepts and there was never a script treatment and never got that far. I'm like, then why did they announce it?
Yeah, it's a great point. This is exact quote. Nothing really happened with it. We had a great time working together and they said, let's keep doing it. I said, great. I would kick our ideas around with Kathy. The short version is Knives Out happened. I went off and made Knives Out and was off to the races, busy making murder mysteries. It's the sort of thing, if down the line there's an opportunity to do it or do something else in Star Wars, I would be thrilled. But right now I'm just doing my own stuff and I'm pretty happy. He said that his trilogy was, quote, as Laura said, all very conceptual, an outline or a treatment or anything. And so, yeah, but he also said, as you said, you were alluding to other things he said, but also in 2022, he said it would be sad if he never directed a Star Wars film ever again. He said it wouldn't be the end of the world for anyone, but I would be sad. I love the world, love the people, love Star Wars fans. I love the passion and how they engage in it. So yeah, Laura, you're so right to bring that up. Like, wait, why would you announce it if it's just conceptual or outlines or whatever? You know, you don't want to announce, but it's because Kathy thought they had or Kathleen Kennedy, sorry, I don't mean to be all familiar with her, but they thought that they had a massive hit in The Last Jedi on their hands and had no idea how it was going to implode in their faces, you know? And so,
yeah. And I mean, I think they were probably also coming off the fact that like Rian Johnson, it sounds like worked so well with them in terms of
no drama,
staying on schedule, not having a bunch of drama behind the scenes. Like it all just sounds like it worked out really, really well. And the fact that he was so productive and punctual and meeting all of his deadlines and whatnot, that they were just like, yeah, of course we want to work with that person again, not knowing how the reaction to The Last Jedi would play out.
Yeah. So, Laura, we got a lot to consider as we look at the future of Star Wars for sure. But we will see. We will see what the updates will be with the Daisy, Ridley, and Rey situation. Well, let's move. Let's go to the past with Star Wars. Currently, right now, there's a film in theaters that is revitalizing a franchise called The Naked Gun, and the star of that film is the great Liam Neeson, and he was on Sirius XM talking about his death as Qui-Gon Jinn in Star Wars. He was on GQ. He talked about it with GQ as well. And he said, I felt my death was a bit namby-pamby. I'm supposed to be a master Jedi, my character fell. Let me read you there. Let me there. You guys follow along here. No, sorry, that's a different thing. My namby-pamby. My character fell for that. Oh, I'm going for your face. No, I'm not. I'm going for your stomach. Oh, you got me. Oh, please. Hardly a master Jedi. But he did say that he enjoyed the experience working on Phantom Menace, called it, quote, great. And he recounted a fun anecdote where he realized he would be upstaged by the entirely CGI character Watto in any scene that he appeared in. So fascinating comments from Liam there. Namby-pamby was what he called his death. And look, I think a lot of people have felt that his death wasn't a merited death, much like Darth Maul's death was way too quick. So still all these years later, 26 years later, Laura, we're still talking about this death and debating it, even the person who performed in the movie. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where every once in a while when something like this happens, we'll get like a book a couple of years later and there'll be some explanation as to like, oh, that character was never good with a lightsaber or something like that, And I could be wrong, but I don't know if we ever got anything like that. Like, I don't think there was ever any explanation as to like how it seemed like he went down like a bitch a little bit. Like it was weird, Like this guy that was supposed to be so powerful and so wise gets taken down like that. Like, but it's one of those things where at the end of the day, like you're at the mercy of what's on the page, Like he didn't write the script. He just had to do it. And I don't know if anybody at that point was like, we're doing the Phantom Menace. We're bringing Star Wars back. It's been however long since the last one came out. Like, I'm going to go talk to George Lucas and give him some rewrites. No one was doing that, I don't think, Like, no. I think that may have been part of the issue. Was somebody needed to be like, hey, man, do you want to revisit this? Like, maybe this goes down differently. I don't know. But at the same time, you had a character like Darth Maul, who was so badass that I'm sure that they got Ray Park on set and had all this amazing stunt work happening. And they were just like, who cares, man? This looks awesome. Let's just roll with it. I don't know. It's one of those things that's really hard to wrap my mind around when I go back and rewatch The Phantom Menace. Cause I'm like, I feel like he shouldn't have gone down that easy, but I don't know.
I always felt that. The Darth Maul death never bothered me. It was the Qui-Gon Jinn death that bothered me because I was like, exactly what he said. He's supposed to be a master Jedi. And it was such an easy move for him to deflect, especially because we had seen him survive so many battles in the movie, or so many, one-on-ones or 30-on-1s, 30-on-2s that we saw in the movie. And yet this move from this guy with a double lightsaber caught him off guard. So, yeah, I agree with his assessment of his own death. And I've always felt that way. But for those of you who might not know what this term means, Laura kindly sent me the definition. I know this. I've heard this term since the 80s, namby-pamby, but according to what I see here, it was the 18th century poets, Alexander Pope and Henry Carey, didn't think much of their contemporary Ambrose Phillips. His sentimental sing-song verses were too childish and simple for their palates. See, we've been bitching about other creatives since the dawn of time, y'all. Nobody created the Snatch Game. The Snatch Game has always been around in different formats. In 1726, Carey came up with the rhyming nickname Mamby-Pamby, playing on Ambrose to parody Phillips. Namby-Pamby, doubly mild, once a man and twice a child. Now he pumps his little wits all by little tiny bits. Woo! And that's that. Now, woo! That is, he's spitting fire there. In 1729, it's sick burn, bro. In 1729, Pope borrowed the nickname to take his own satirical jab at Phillips in the poem The Dunciad, Before long, namby-pamby was being applied to any piece of writing that was insipidly precious, simple or sentimental, and later to anyone considered pathetically weak or indecisive. So yeah, powerful words there for Liam Neeson to call his death namby-pamby, a little namby-pamby there as well.
Powerful words. I heard that and I was like, what in the hell does that mean? I had not heard that term before. Thought it was some crazy Irish slang. It turns out it's not. It's not Irish at all.
Of course, a bunch of poets came up with it, of course. One last thing in his comments. He said that George Lucas, quote, doesn't like directing. He told me that, Neeson said. Editing sweet afterwards, yeah, that's when he starts enjoying the process. But actually directing actors, he told me he doesn't like it at all. I am not surprised by one word of this that Liam Neeson is saying, because it shows. It shows that he doesn't like directing actors, Laura. Was you surprised by him saying any of this?
No, faster and more intense. That was those were his directions to his actors. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all that he was like, that's what I want them to do. Why aren't they doing it? That's all I know how to say is faster and more intense. Like that, it just cracked me up. That wasn't surprising at all. It is interesting to me though that he was like, yeah, in the editing bay, that's where he likes to be. Because you think about movies like, I mean, weren't the first 2 Star Wars films like completely edited by like Marshall Lucas? Like how I guess I didn't really think about the fact that George Lucas may have had any involvement at that point. Although I know that that's a natural place for a director to be, is in the editing bay. I listened to the Severance podcast while that show was airing, and Ben Stiller talked about that a lot, about how like that was his like favorite place, was to like be in the editing bay with the editors, like watching it all come together.
Right.
And how that is such a big part of his role. So that was educational to me. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised to hear that that was a fun place for Lucas to be. But yeah, that it's interesting that he directed 4 entire Star Wars films, despite the fact that he did not like directing. I mean, that's interesting.
Nope. What he does like is to be in control. And clearly that is something that is there for him as well. He was at Comic-Con recently, Laura, and he talked about, he didn't talk too much about Star Wars, but he talked a little bit about Star Wars. And it seemed like he was taking some shots at the current administration of Star Wars, even though he sold it to his friend, Kathleen Kennedy. So like, he just felt like, well, I gave him a bunch of stuff and they seemed like they changed the rules on the things I gave them. So like, are you surprised that George is still cantankerous about this?
Yeah, kind of. I'm surprised he cares. Like, I'm surprised that he is even a little bit invested emotionally with it, to be honest. If I made $4 billion on something, I would probably just like wash my hands of it and go build a rocket too, which I thought is what he's been doing with his time. So I don't know. I was kind of I'm surprised to hear that. All I heard about that panel was that they mostly talked about the museum and how it's a lot of just George Lucas's personal art collection and how he doesn't like to sell art. He's like, I don't buy art to sell it. That's just not how I operate. I buy it to admire it. And now he wants all of us to admire it. But I didn't realize that Star Wars had even really come up. That's interesting.
Yeah. And it's really fun too, because like we just had the reveal of the original cut that was played at that British Film Institute festival or whatever. And that was not received as well as people were hoping in terms of the quality of the film, but it still seemed to be like it was a really cool experience to be there, you know? So we do see that like people, there's still unfinished business with Star Wars, isn't there? There's always something that isn't quite finished yet. No matter how far back you go, you can find something that isn't quite finished yet, even from the first film on. And I'm not surprised about Lucas in the editing bay, because that's why he gets upset when people bring up the original cuts, because he's like very clear that was not the cut I wanted to put out, but that was the cut we had to put out because of restrictions. But I wanted more, and he's gone back in. And apparently, from what you read and what you see here, is that he's like, he doesn't like the original cuts of the Star Wars films, the original trilogy, and that's why he's always added extra scenes and stuff to them. But I feel like universally people don't like those extra scenes. But then again, how many people nowadays from the last few generations have seen the original cuts? Probably very few.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I'm like, and I honestly don't have any desire to. If like I have everything that I know is special editions, and I have seen like images and like every once in a while like a video of what they looked like, and I'm like, who is like banging down the door to go watch this? Like this, like I totally get where he's coming from, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, that's really funny to hear though, that like people went and saw that, and like, what were their expectations? You thought you were gonna like see some masterpiece? Like he said himself he didn't like how it looked. So that's just interesting.
That's a fascinating situation for sure. All right, well, there we go. We should wrap it up here as we're close to an hour. Thank you all so much for joining us for this return of the Jedi Way. We've been off planet, shall we say, for a little while because there wasn't a lot to talk about, but we had some news stories break here. Thought we could fill up the hour. And Laura Kelly, another great time talking Star Wars with you. Always love it. Always enjoy this time. Please let people know where they can find you and everything you got going on.
Yeah, you can find my podcast, Force Toast to Star Wars Happy Hour, on all major podcast platforms. We are on Blue Sky at Force Toast Pod, and I'm on Blue Sky at Shut Up Laura, just not particularly active these days. But yeah, find me there, and we do a lot of book talk on the podcast. So if you're a High Republic fan, if you're keeping up with reading, that's mostly what we've been reading. Actually, the fact that High Republic is now over means we have to get into reading other things again, which is sad. But it'll be something different. So that'll be nice to mix it up a little bit.
When do you have a new episode dropping? When's the next episode drop?
We had one drop earlier this week.
Okay.
So yesterday, I guess, would have been the 5th, and then we'll have another one in 2 weeks.
Okay. So go check those out. Check that episode out, y'all. And if you like it, listen to the other ones as well. As for me, at the Rocha Says, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads. And please subscribe to the channel down below. You know, we're marching towards 40,000. We're so close. Please make sure you hit a like on the video as well, but subscribe and hit that bell button. That's so important. And leave us your thoughts on all the subjects we talked about today. What do you think about what's going on with the Matt Smith casting, with Temuera Morrison? Is he going to come back as Boba Fett? The Rey Verse, are you excited about that? What do you think the possibilities are for that? And Qui-Gon's comments, or Liam Neeson's comments about Qui-Gon's death. Where do you land on that? Let us know. And have you used namby-pamby, or are there other words that you enjoy using from the old English language? Let us know, for God's sake. But all right, take care of yourselves. Be well. Thanks so much. Shout out to our brother Kevin Smets. We'll be back on our next show, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of the Jedi Way. And Laura, what do we have to tell them before we wrap up?
As the namby-pamby Qui-Gon Jinn once said, always remember, your focus determines your reality.